Hello, I'm Conrad Bain. Tonight, we're starting a special show on a very sensitive and important subject. Now, we urge families, children, and parents alike to watch and then to discuss the problem presented, which is of deep concern to all of us.
What you playing, man? What you hearing, man? What you rating, man? Vinyl owner, vinyl boner. 2-hour drinking is on. Time to hear that song. Vynyl Countdown. Vynyl Countdown.
But it's not.
The numbers are moving. Jack's listening to me going, look, the numbers are moving. He's going, I told him that it wasn't really recording, but it really was, just to make him sound stupid. I think it's recording.
Why don't we just make it our little secret, huh?
I'm going to watch some people golf.
Do you want a to-go cup of Zing Zang? I have it already mixed up.
We like to take a taste of alcohol!
That would have been classy.
You sure don't on that?
Why don't we just make it our little secret, huh?
Do we want to do this?
Well,
you want to go, or
We're doing
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
Chris
yeah.
is ready. Are you ready?
You want me to just get started talking about, gentlemen, we're here to talk about Radiohead's album, The Bend.
Say, gentlemen, start your boners.
This is Bill. I was here, I was put on task of being in the listening booth. I found out about that just about 3 or 4 days ago. And I started to panic, realizing I hadn't been thinking about album reviews in a while. I started going through a whole bunch of stuff that I'd been through the first time I was in the listening booth. I was going through Elvis Costello albums, a lot of, again, some of my favorites are the Kinks. I was going through a lot of their albums. I even went a completely different direction and was considering albums like Raising Hell by Run DMC and Appetite for Destruction by Guns N' Roses. But then I started wandering into Bob Dylan albums. And by the time I started listening to Dylan, I decided that I wanted to try to get something that just was chock full of songs I love.
You know what I'm talking about?
I went ahead and just picked Radiohead The Bend because it is an album that I still love today, pretty much as I did in 1995. Although I don't think I listened to it until about 96 or 97.
Woo!
It is a very, in many ways, depending on how you want to look at it, self-indulgent and depressing album. But the music is incredible, and the songs still hold up really well for me. Being from the United States and not a British person.
Who gives a shit tonight?
A huge bunch of the songs can be taken in a lot of different, as good art is, it's very subjective and can be taken a lot of different directions. Whether you think these songs are about a relationship, a person, the government, the overall austerity thing that has been going on in Britain with loss of money to the arts over those years. A lot of frustration in there that comes off of the title track song, which is the second song on the album. And I'll just shut up rambling about why I picked The Bend.
You and I are going to have a lot of good times together.
You have it on vinyl?
Yes, I do.
Jonathan Boyd?
Woo, Don, since you're rolling, and
He's
you're
not
also kind
vinyl.
of a huge part of why I ever listened to Radiohead in the first place, including the 2 concerts we went to together.
Listen, guys, if you have not gone skinny dipping, you have missed one of the great joys in this life.
This album here, they were all changing. The band, I think they broke up 2 or 3 times on that first tour. There's lines on here about the tour. All these lines mean 6 things. Like, there's a line about driving on your motorcycle, watching the road beneath you drive. Because, you don't really choose where you go. The road tells you where to go. So that's like metaphysical and actually driving around the United States on a bus, looking down. But it's also, are you in charge of your own life? All this kind of stuff.
We ought to be playing some games.
But it's about the growth, or the bends, as you will, as the band, the pressure on the band.
I'd really appreciate it if you didn't let him have any more wine when he's over here.
But all the stuff that the band was putting on him making him change into something that he wasn't quite sure whether he was comfortable changing into.
Try to touch me.
I love every song on here from beginning to end. I give it like a 12 out of 10.
Vinyl Boner!
I don't know that there's a better record that's come out since I graduated from high school, I'll put it that way.
A rock and roll miracle, let me tell you about it.
And this whole thing was written on tour. You can tell. And the same thing with Rio by Duran Duran. The Bends in Rio by Duran Duran are really British albums about what it's like for a British band to come to the United States. You can see Duran Duran was much more sunny about their disposition.
It's because they're good-looking dudes.
I give it 12 out of 10. I give it 12 out of 10 on the Vinyl Boner scale. Who knows? I'll probably think of something else to say later, but I'll let Dave talk now because I'm running out of time.
Davey B!
I never was a big Radiohead fan. I remember listening to this album by the request of, I believe, Bill. And I also remember, I think that Bill was the one who said to listen to these songs, and I think the Snoop Toboggan was around at the time somewhere.
Sounds about right.
Just to clarify.
So I listened to the album back in, what was it, 94, 95 maybe? I don't remember. And I didn't really like it that much. I mean, I thought it was decent. And I listened to it again last night, and it hasn't gotten much better for me. The Bends is a great song, though. I think that that song alone gives the album 5 VBs. Planet Telex or Telex or however you say it, it kind of reminded me of Bowie. And I don't know why, but it just kind of did. But it was kind of like that spacey Bowie that I really wasn't into as much.
There's nothing wrong with being naked.
High and Dry, I think, is a great, again, I think it's a great poppy, dreamy type song. I think there's a lot of songs that are in the same category as High and Dry on this album, but just not as good.
He said it'd make me feel good.
Make you feel good.
He said it'd make me feel good.
And then I remember back in the 90s kind of liking Fake Plastic Trees, but I didn't like it so much this time around. And then I think that the big surprise on the album is Just. That song, the beginning reminded me of Love and Rockets, and then there's parts in it where he reminds me of John Lennon, like when he's singing. And those aren't the reasons why I like the song, but I think it's a really good song. I think it's the big surprise, I guess, on the album. And I mean, other than the Bends, in my opinion, I think it's the best song.
You take your shirt off.
Have you ever seen the video for Just?
Know a neat game with the camera. You guys like to take pictures?
I have not.
You know, guys, you can just have an awful lot of fun with your clothes off.
You're gonna want to.
Yeah, that's you know, there's like the thing about this thing no one knows. Well, the video, it's like a New York City setting, and there's big buildings, and it's like from the street level, and these people start whispering to each other, and every person that hears what the guy has to say just lays down in the street and stops wanting to live and just stares at the sky. And then someone comes up to him and whispers, and will say, "What's wrong?" And then once they tell him, they lay down beside him. Mm-hmm. And by the end of the thing, they pan back, and the whole down, everyone's just stopped going to work and is just laying on the street. Mm-hmm. It's very surreal.
I'd really appreciate it if you didn't let him have any more wine when he's over here.
It's a real cool video. They never tell you what the fucker said. But they can't, because they can't.
I was watching it with Amber last night. I have a whole take on that now, but...
Well, obviously...
Jonathan Boyd, C. Dizzy, Davey B, Bill Hicks.
They're experimenting with alcohol. I don't like that.
And again, I think part of the reason why this reminded me of Bowie is because like the songs that are good are so good, and then the other songs are just not so great to me. So... like I said, based on the Bends, the album starts out at 5 VB. So there's Just and High and Dry. So I guess in total I give it 6, 7, 6.5. But it's like I said, the good songs are good. It doesn't really do it for me.
C. Dizzy.
I never really listened to this album back in the 90s. I've heard the songs and the singles, but I don't think I ever sat down and listened to it, front to back. I don't know anybody that had it. I like Radiohead a lot.
You know, that pizza would taste a whole lot better with a glass of wine. You guys care for a sip?
Definitely, this to me sounds more like the Radiohead that I know and love. Planet Telex I thought was a great song, you know. I got 8.5 dBs on that. It's really like, it gives me a glimpse, you know, they're coming into their own stride and getting a sense of who they are as a band. And, you know, overall I agree with, and Julie and I were talking about this last night, this is a depressing album, you know, there's not a lot of uplifting stuff on here. It's a lot of dreary and down stuff, but, you know, if you're on the road and everybody's loving you over one song, and, you know, you see how Tom York likes that song, you know, these days. You know, he's not playing Creep unless it's just to punk somebody at a concert. You know, The Bends, that's a good tune. It's not my favorite, but it's good. The note I put was it's not quite as Radioheady as I like.
Probably because I like looking at naked women.
I think I got some pictures around here of a bunch of us skinny dipping. You guys are gonna love them.
I don't want to not make love anymore. That lyric sticks out to me. He's going through some stuff when he's writing this.
Now we're gonna take some pictures, and we're gonna have another little sip of wine, and we're gonna take some more pictures.
I can see that. The problem is I don't have all this background on this stuff, so I'm a relative newcomer to, you know, the hows and whys behind a lot of the motivations.
He came home with wine on his breath and he said that you gave it to him.
I can see that. Fake Plastic Trees, that's a 9 for me. That's a great song. It's classic Radiohead. It never gets old, you know, or dated. I could listen to that every day and be content hearing it. Just, I love. It's a tie for number 1 for me. Sharing the number 1 spot with Fake Plastic Trees. Yeah, that's a 9. I love that song. I love the guitars. You know, it's great. Sometimes I do it to myself, so I get it. Bulletproof. It'd be cool to be bulletproof, but it only gave me 6 VBs. It's not one of my favorites. That's where my affinity for that song is.
There's your tagline.
Yeah. Only 6 though, but only 6 is not bad.
No, you know.
I believe there were 0 VBs given out before.
That is dreadful. That is the worst thing you could do.
The worst track on this album is still better than most tracks from other bands. It's not necessarily my favorite Radiohead album from cover to cover, but it's really good.
You just got yourself thrown in the listening booth.
I might have. I'm not afraid. I got something lined up, too.
And we found some very incriminating pictures.
While we're waiting here, or not waiting, but we just finished with Street Spirit, and I have a ton to say about that song for various reasons.
Mr. Horton invited the boys into his back room to have some pizza and to play games, and he gave them a little wine to drink. Then he showed them some photos of himself swimming naked with some young boys, and he said he had some even better ideas for later on. And now we continue with part 2.
So overall, I give this an 8.5 stiff Vinyl Boners. This is a great album.
Stiff, hard 8.5.
You could hang a towel on this puppy.
I'm packing a gun tonight. I'm packing my pistol, my 6-shooter of sex, my Uzi of ooze, my left gun.
Well, Chris gave a hard 8.5. Dave gave a soft 6-7, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we'll go with 6.5.
And John,
I haven't given my. I haven't. I'm not allowed to give more than 10, so I wasn't. That was kind of an impromptu one.
Don't they go into electronic music kind of after this?
Yeah, like that's the general what people say about it, but I think I would disagree with that.
But I'll get back to what John was building on. And it is a big difference, I think, huge difference from a more infantile Pablo Honey, which is kind of a great name for that album. What's all the chimes I'm hearing?
No alarms.
This album is not the best Radiohead album. I would put it in their top 4. However, I think it's one of the best guitar rock albums that exist.
It's guitar rock, the most electrifying rock collection ever issued.
And it is depressing if you're willing to embrace it. And it is very self-indulgent of Tom mostly, I think. And I spent a lot of time on this yesterday with my wife, who likes this album.
Then you'll have the chance to preview other guitar rock albums at no risk. Satisfaction guaranteed.
He was drunk when he recorded the actual song.
He came home with wine on his breath and he said that you gave it to him.
He was allegedly drunk during the recording of that song. This whole album is, the lyrics, it's something that both headphones and like on one hand I want to listen to it with headphones on in a sensory deprivation chamber, just at least in a dark room.
You don't have any clothes on either.
And on the other hand, if you don't have the lyrics in front of you while you're listening to it, you're also missing a ton. So I would enjoy this album if it were an instrumental. My wife explains the things to me that I can feel. And The Bends is a brilliant song. But The Bends musically, the way it moves and changes, different progressions of the song, coming from a non-musician who doesn't play music, it's hard for me to explain to me. The point is that I really didn't appreciate just how great a song The Bends is. And I get totally why they named it as the title track. While on one hand they're touring, they're making a mess of things. Bones shows clearly that, Tom's body is failing him. He can't even handle this situation and is thinking about the frailty of himself, as Chris noted.
And especially if they want to touch you where you don't want to be touched.
High and Dry, along with Just, are the two angry songs of the album. Instead of where he lets himself be pissed off, where he really goes there.
Don't go with him, because if he goes with him, he might try to do something, put his hands on him or something, because that's what he did to me.
I'm not sure where this band is going. High and Dry and Just are the songs where he's just like, fuck you. And you may have to edit that out of the podcast.
Hicks.
This is off subject, but let me ask you a question. Who do you think won the 90s British invasion? Do you think it was Radiohead, Oasis, or Blur?
You people made it possible!
I saw Oasis at the arena, didn't I? The arena Andrew Cade, I think. And I saw him at the Metropole. I forget where I see everybody. I saw Bush on Friday.
This is X-rated. It's dirty.
Oh, I saw Bush.
See, now you're making me think maybe I did.
It's dirty.
I know it's not the 90s anymore, and it might not be cool anymore, but I'm still into Bush.
That's right.
Big Black Bush.
The t-shirts write themselves.
They do.
All right, let me jump back so we don't make Jack have to listen to way too much.
Lots of editing to do, Mr. Jack.
I really like this song. I've liked this for a long time because it was this sort of dreamy quality to it.
I killed my ice maker.
What's beeping?
I'm sorry.
That's alright. Carry on.
Sulk is a song that musically I really like. I like the rise and fall of it a lot. It's one of those songs that I play my fingers like a maestro when I'm listening to it, even in the car. And if it's I'm drumming on the steering wheel of my car when I'm
picture you doing that to every song, though, Bill.
Street Spirit is a great song. It's one that I still love listening to, both lyrically and musically. It hasn't lost a step for me at all, and I think it's a great way to end the album. And I think, as somebody pointed out earlier, possibly just saying, okay, this might be all you get of Radiohead. This might be the last of it.
Just in case.
So enjoy. I love the thing. If there's a scale of 1 to 10, I have to give it a 10.
Well, there is a scale of 1 to 10.
Final boner!
It's based on VB.
I wanted to go higher.
No, we can only give it 10 VBs.
I wanted to blow through the ceiling and go with 12, like the album.
Well, isn't it one of the EPs that's dedicated to Bill Hicks, though, and not the album?
No, it's the album.
I thought it was one of the EPs.
The album is dedicated to dead comedian Bill Hicks.
I'd like to think that it's dedicated to
Did you know that? Bill's looking like he didn't know that.
No, I had no idea.
Come on, dude. Out of all the shit you just told us, you don't know the album's dedicated to Bill Hicks. Bill saying it's the 4th best radio album is just wrong. This is things that were said.
You're
You're in the listening booth.
And now, while you're wrong, Jon Boyd.
So here at the round table, Bill gave it 10, I gave it 10, Chris gave it 8.5, so it's up to 28.5, and Dave gave it 7?
6.5.
6.5. So it's up to a good 35, right?
But I do agree that Just in the Bends are great songs.
Let's wrap this up. It's been over an hour, so now Jack has a ton of recording to go through. So
you know what I'm talking about.
I was pleasantly surprised you picked Radiohead. I didn't know where you guys' musical taste gambit runs.
Chris, what would you have thought if I had picked Raising Hell by Run DMC?
That was the first cassette I ever bought that had explicit lyrics.
You got to put someone in the listening booth.
This was fun for me.
How many of you girls like to get licked?
Chris said that he already had one all queued up he wants to go with, so I'm going to hold true to prior tradition. I'm not going to tell him he was wrong about anything because I agree with most of his takes. So I'm just going to say that he's in the listening booth.
All right.
Next.
All right.
So I got to make sure my selections are on vinyl first.
Chicks are just as angry as dudes.
All right.
We're going to continue drinking and try to get the DT.
We're gonna drink a little bit and let Bill Hicks get on to his Bill Hicksian life. And for another episode of Vinyl Boners, I guess that's us saying goodbye.
You don't bullshit and you are the real deal.
Vynyl Countdown!
Usually at this time, you would find Mr. Belvedere at his desk, writing about the antics of the Owens family. But due to the special theme of tonight's episode, we thought we'd do something a little different.
We figured we'd talk to you kids and your parents too about something that's kind of hard to talk about.
Tonight's episode about
Vinyl Boner!
It didn't really happen. But if ever you find yourself in a situation like that, there are certain things you should remember. If you have to keep a secret that makes you feel bad, it's not worth keeping. Thank you, and good night from us all, Mr. Belvedere.